The J. Michaels Show.
Welcome to another episode of The J. Michaels Show. Our guest today is Claire Louise Hay. She is a healer, and we're going to be talking to her about a whole lot of, shall we say, esoteric things. But first, while I've got you here at the beginning, let me remind you to please subscribe to the show, like, comment, hit the subscription button no matter where it is you're getting the show, audio or video, and we would really, really appreciate that. Now, to Claire, let's say hello and let's get started. Hey, Claire.
Hello, Jay. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on. So you are coming to me from Taiwan, right?
Thailand. I live on a small island in Thailand. Yeah.
Okay. What island do you live on?
On Koh Tao.
Okay. Do you like it there?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I've been here for 8 years now. It's only a very small island, very tight-knit community, and of course, a lot of tourists too. But yeah, it's an amazing place to live.
And where are you originally from?
Originally from England. I moved to Australia. You can probably hear that in my accent.
Yeah.
In the year 2000, and then started my business, Be Healing, when I moved to Australia. So, yeah, my accent changed to kind of half and half, and then it stuck there.
Well, tell me about your business there, Be Healing. What's it about?
Be Healing. Well, I've always been a psychic. I realized that at a very early age, and had a lot of healing to do on myself. And I'm talking emotional healing, and sorting pretty much emotional issues out. And as I was going, I was helping other people along the way. And so when I started my business, I was helping people with psychological and neurological problems, predominantly using neurotherapy. So it actually started out as Byron Bay neurotherapy. And then as the business expanded into more of my esoteric gifts, because I was hiding them at first, kind of doing them under the radar, I changed the business name to Be Healing and went online with it. Yeah.
Okay. And but you are also, by trade, you're a psychologist, right?
No, I'm not. I'm a neurotherapist. I call myself a mystic psychologist. So although I've got the psychic gift, I made a deal with my guides of how I wanted to use it. I wanted to use it to help people heal themselves. And so I wasn't interested in the kind of showmanship stuff. I'm not saying there's a problem with that. Other people can do it. That's cool. Other people can use the gifts however they want to. But me personally, I really wanted to just use them in that way, to use them to help people. And so it's kind of merging the two, the neurotherapy along with the gifts that I got to help people to heal themselves. And so when I'm doing a psychic reading, rather than a prediction thing, sometimes stuff can come up like that about someone's life, but generally it'll be about your energy and it'll be about what's going on. It's about how the way that you're seeing things are perhaps undermining you or, causing you problems and things like that. And so it's more about, it's like a psychology, but it's coming through from my guides. I just get told by my guides, by the customer's higher self, what they need to know. And using my experience as well of healing myself, often it goes into it too. Tools and skill, just things that I've used to be able to turn myself around, help them with that. But sometimes it's stuff that I've never even heard of before. And it just comes straight through from my guides. And I tell the customer that.
Did you have some tragedy or something you had to heal yourself from?
An abusive childhood. Yeah. It's one of the reasons I moved to Australia, to get away from it all. A lot. I mean, just every kind of abuse that you can think of. Not just that, but I had to, you probably know, each race, each country has a kind of default psychology. And with the English is very much repressing the emotions, kind of denying the emotions, pretending that you feel another way, than you actually feel. So that's very confusing. It's very confusing to grow up with that. And of course, I learned to be that way too, and recognize that that wasn't serving me. When I moved to Australia, I found them to be much more emotionally transparent. Thailand, even more so. But yeah, just, having to teach myself how to be emotionally intelligent, really, to be able to have healthy relationships instead of a confusion of relationships, not being real with people and all of that. So it has been an ongoing process with me, which is why I call my business Be Healing. It's about the active process of being that all the time, to teach myself, how to be grounded and how to be emotionally healthy. And it's still an ongoing process. I think especially now, we're going through a massive shift on this planet at the moment, and there's a fundamental change between masculine and feminine energies right now. I'm moving into, or creating, a new paradigm, because none of us have ever experienced that balanced masculine and feminine before, and what it even means.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that here in America, we tend to do the same thing. Someone will ask us, "Well, how are you feel?" or "How are you doing?" And we'll say, "Okay, everything's fine," when actually it isn't fine. So you run
Right. Yeah. 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 Whereas in Thailand, you see, a lot of people come to Thailand. I see a lot of tourists here, of course. And some people have a really hard time with them. And they're like, oh, they're terrible people. And straight away, I know that it's that person that's a terrible person, because the Thai will reflect back to you what you're being. And so generally, they are the nicest people ever. And as long as you're not causing problems, as soon as you start causing problems, they're going to be direct with you back. And I've just found that so refreshing. If they feel the safest people in the world to me, because you know exactly where they are, because they're responding with the correct emotions, and they all take care of each other as well. So when you see somebody angry, they're holding space for them. You know what I mean? The whole community will respond to that person in a very different way than I've ever seen in other countries. Of what does this person need right now? There's a concern for them, right? And unless it's been directed toward them, if they're having like unreasonable anger toward them, they're going to reflect it back, of course. But from the community feel, it's very different. And because I live on a small island here as well, it's very much a community, I was just having a conversation at an event last week where we've got a lot of kids running around on the island, and I'm really jealous of them growing up on an island like this. But we all know them. We all know the kids on this island, and all the animals too. And everyone's looking out for them, and everyone takes care of them, And a tourist at this event was worried that one of my friend's children was seemingly hanging around by herself. She wasn't. I was there, and there was plenty of people around that knew her. But it looked like she was by herself. And so this tourist was showing concern for her. And she asked the little girl, "Where's your mom?" And so I took over and said, "Oh, mom's over there. Her dad's away at the moment." And she's like, "She should be with her mum." I said, "It's not a problem. We're all looking out for her. You're looking with the eyes of a tourist. But when we look around, we can see all the community members there, She's well cared for. They all are." And so it is a very different kind of a community here, very refreshing. And this is why I've stayed. It's like this is showing me how life can be on this island. Yeah. So I don't intend going anywhere. Yes. Right. Yeah. Not much. No, not at all. Yeah. And so after me being here a year, first of all, I was a tourist, of course. I knew that I wanted to stay. I could stay. I'd got my business completely online, so I could do it from anywhere. But yeah, I was seen as a tourist. And then after being here for a year, that's when the community kind of saw me and thought, she's still here, They started letting me in. And it was during COVID times that really, of course, then the community went down to the bare bones. There were many people that couldn't stay here because they couldn't make a living here. Went off to the mainland. All the tourists left, of course, and it just, yeah, a very, very small community. It was paradise. It was paradise during those times. We were actually the last place on earth to get COVID as well. And yeah, of course, most of the community didn't have anything to do at that time, and so the community really came together. Because everyone had all of this time on their hands. So it was an incredible place to be for that. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
There's this shift going on now, a huge shift. Tell me about how you're responding to that shift in the world today.
Right. Well, with my work, because I'm doing a lot of channeling work, I do like a daily Today's Tarot show on my YouTube channel, Be Healing. And I had a membership on that channel as well. I've finished that now this year because I'm focusing on other things now. But the energy was really stagnant for a few years, you know. A lot of what the guides were saying was just like, empower yourself, learn about boundaries, how to have boundaries with people, how to say no, you know, letting go of any emotional stuff where you feel guilty for looking after yourself and feel guilty for saying no, sorting all of that out. But that was it, you know, there wasn't anything particularly coming through, anything big. And my guides just kept on saying, just wait, you know, because I was like, but I want to help more people. I want to do more things, you know, so give me some information, give me something to go off. And they just said, just wait, just wait. And I'm like, okay, don't know what I'm waiting for. But, well, that all changed in January. And it was early in January too, that the energies shifted completely. And I started getting really excited, really excited about really good things coming. And I was doing a lot of meditation at the time. I do a lot of meditation a lot of the time, but more than usual meditating. And all of this information started flowing through me. I created a new program. I got really creative with it all to help people to expand beyond structures. It's difficult when we're living in certain like maybe political or just the structures that we have in the world. It's difficult to imagine beyond that, you know. So if I were to ask you, what are your goals? You're likely to think, you know, within the frameworks that we've already got, the paradigms that we've got. You think along the lines of what's possible in the structures that we've already got. Well, we're moving to something completely different, right? And so I was told to teach my people how to meditate in order to take all of those structures away and expand the mind beyond that. So more, you know, feet on the earth, no structures around how do you want to live right now? Because they said, you know, everything's about to change. And way back in 2011, I channeled a book because everyone was talking about the 2012 shift. And my guides hadn't told me about that, but a lot of people were talking about it. And so I asked my guides, what of this shift in 2012? And they said, no, it's not happening now, but it's going to happen. And so I wrote a book about it. I called it Beyond 2012 because they told me it wasn't then. Well, it's now. That's what's happening now. And yeah, so I wrote that program. And that's called the Adventure Zone. That's on my website, behealing.com. It's full of quests. So I'm trying to get my customers to actually not just listen to my teachings and the channelings, but to actually do the meditations, taking them through the meditations, guided meditations, and quests to expand the minds, you know. So it's like coming at it from different angles to get them to actually participate in it. So that's fun. Yeah, and apart from that, a lot of information coming through about, well, I think it's been clear looking at the world that things are escalating, you know, in order to break apart. You know, it feels like those that want to control, those that are so fearful that they want to control are just, you know, escalating it. They're escalating it so much that it's become so obvious that even more people are waking up to it. It's just becoming so clear. Whereas a few years ago, people would be called conspiracy theorists if they brought this stuff up. It's like, no, don't be paranoid. The majority would say that. Well, no, now it's like we're in these last throes of them stomping their feet and trying to hold on to that control, which has made it very clear to the majority of people. And that's what we needed. I think that's what I felt in January, was that shift. It was like, that pivot point. We were kind of going along that pivot point, and then now we're flowing in this more of a freedom direction. But we're being helped by all kinds of guides and energies as well. I've just got into watching Stephen Burns. Have you seen him? I think he calls himself the Cosmic Weatherman.
No.
I just watched his video before I came on here. Yeah, and he's an expert on like solar activity. He will show every day all of the solar maps and all the data and everything as a scientist, and what we're being bombarded with at the moment. And so we've got this every 28 days, this massive coronal hole. So as the sun moves around in 28 days, it spins in 28 days. And so it takes up probably about 2/3 as we're looking at the sun. It's like a big smile on the sun, a massive hole, just at a certain frequency. And that's letting through all of this geomagnetic radiation at us, these solar storms. We're in one right now. And we've got a couple of solar tomorrow. We've got the sun did 2 flashes. So we've got those ejections coming our way tomorrow as well. So there's all of this, which has heightened the energy as well. So I don't know if you've noticed, but the last 2 weeks especially, it's been a bit exhausting, wired and tired and like weird, really weird energies. And so it's not just human beings and a consciousness shift. That's part of it, of course. But there's so much information coming out because of these energy changes as well. We're really going through it right now. Right. From what my guides tell me, we narrowly averted destruction. I think that was the way that we were headed, was to destruction of the planet, destruction of the environment and of humans, a big catastrophe. But we've averted that now, which is good. So we've got this chance to, instead of starting again, which is what happened before, we go through these cycles. Apparently we've been going through these cycles for a very long time. What we know is history, not her story, but history is just one of the very recent cycles, that we've been through. And I've heard that this is very rare to be in a patriarchy, because it doesn't work. It's very rare to be in a patriarchy, and we're coming out of that now. Yeah.
Do you see or foresee a lot of geopolitical changes coming, or is that part of what you've been seeing? And does it end soon? That's what a lot of people want to know, is when does it get better?
Right. When does it get better? Yeah. Well, it's already getting better. But of course, there's going to be the fall of these structures. And so I think this year is really the focal point of it breaking apart. And I think we're going to see a lot until July of that. And then I think they're putting it back together again is going to be within the next 2 or 3 years. And I from what my guides have told me and what I've experienced in changes in my life, I've lived in so many different continents, and my life has changed a lot, throughout my life. I feel like I've had like 5 different lifetimes in one. That it's always easy. Like it always happens the easiest way, as long as we're flowing with it. As soon as we stop resisting it, that's when it gets difficult. So I don't think it's going to be as destructive and hard as we think it's going to be, as we expect it to be. I think that we're headed toward a time of equality. they've told me that we're still going to have leadership positions, but it's not going to be hierarchy. Those leaders don't get more money than everyone else. It's not like that. It's going to be a role, but it's a role the same as any other role. Mm-hmm. It's just taken by those people that are best at it. Mm-hmm. They've also shown me that it's more likely to be couples as well. A man and a woman, or any kind of a couple, really, a masculine and feminine dynamic, taking leadership roles, so it's more balanced. Mm-hmm. And they haven't really told me much about the specifics of it more than that, because they said, because we're creating it, it's for humans to create it now. And so the most important thing that we can do right now, as I said, is meditate and try and get beyond all the structures and try and think outside of all those structures, outside of those boxes, and how we really want to live. I feel that that's why I'm here now in this community, because it's given me a taste of that. It's given me a taste of what that actually feels like to be part of a community. I was saying before, like the first year that I was here, I was a tourist. But then once I was amongst the community and I'm seen as one of them now, it's a very different experience, because we are putting things on for the tourists. We'll have like festivals and things like that for the tourists. But when I'm at things like that, I'm part of the community, meaning there will be like food for the community. Mm-hmm. And we all help out and we all eat that food. And then the tourists buy, the food from there. It's almost like it's a family. It's a family here. And that's another thing that Thais do as well, which is really interesting, is when you've got a job somewhere, so they're employing Thai and Burmese and sometimes Westerners in their businesses, they are part of that family. Mm-hmm. You become a part of the business family. You've got accommodation and you've got food. Mm-hmm. People aren't expected to do that themselves, like work for me and go and find your food in the little breaks that I give you and try and find your No, you're getting taken care of by them, by that business. And so what happens is when you live here, if you've got a job, you're part of that family. Mm-hmm. And if you are like working out at a certain gym, you're part of that family too. And we have these like extended families. There's the one big community, but you're a part of a few communities, a few families within that. And so there's always somewhere to go. You're always expected to eat at all of them as well. And so, it's given me more of an idea of how I love living like this. It feels great. More of how things could work, but it feels to me like it's got to be on that local level. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we've got these hierarchical things which clearly don't work. Right. It just becomes a big tyranny. With hierarchical structures. And we've seen that, right? There's been experiments with people. You can get the best of people and you put them in a social experiment. And if some are given power, they turn it against the others. And it's shocking when we see that, but it seems to be part of this human condition, is that kind of power, it corrupts. Mm-hmm. It corrupts people every time. We're not meant to be like that. We don't see that anywhere in nature, that kind of hierarchy. Right. And that kind of global thing. Nature is always local and it's always like equal. There will be a leadership role within that, but they're not put on a pedestal because of that. So I think that's what we're headed toward. That's what I imagine we're headed toward.
Do you believe that we are shifting? We've always had male leaders. Are we shifting more to the femininity, where we'll have more of maternal leadership in the future?
I think we're headed more toward the feminine, but that's because we've been so out of balance toward the masculine. Mm-hmm. I think we're headed toward equal. I think we have a very long time ago experienced matriarchy, so hierarchy with a woman at the top, with a feminine at the top, and I don't think that worked either. And no, I think we're going to more of an equal thing. without hierarchy. So no archy about it. Just an equal paradigm. So that to me would be a world where we all have our specific strengths. Of course, because what's feminine in me is completely different to what's feminine in another woman, or feminine within another man. We're all very unique, and we've all got unique gifts within that mix of masculine and feminine within ourselves as well. And so I feel like we'll all be completely ourselves and fulfilling whatever role we're here to do for the community.
That is wonderful. And I'm often thinking that what this world needs is balance. We need to balance both sides, and we are very much out of balance now. So you see more of an equality and more balance coming.
Yeah, and starting within small communities, I think that's the only way we can start. And I don't think it will even go from there. Like, I'm not seeing like the end of technology or the end of us being able to communicate with each other. I think that's a really good thing. But the end of the control within it, we need that. I mean, I don't know whether you've experienced that, but these algorithms now, they are hiding good people. They're hiding me. They are, and it's all about rage bait and like who's gonna cause the most trouble. Let's put them front and center. It's just so backward. I think hopefully we're going to lose all of that very soon. That kind of a focus. But yeah, I see it very much as being within small communities.
Perfect.
Yeah, there being lots of movement around.
That would be. You've written several books. I would like for you to take a moment and tell us about the books you've written and what are they about specifically, each book.
Okay, if I can remember them. It's been a while since I wrote a book. My first book I wrote in 2010. I started writing that. That's the only book that I've actually had to sit down almost every day and write a bit of. And that's called The Healing Path Within. And it is a day by day, some guidance for every single day. So you can use that book and flip it open to a random page and get the guidance, or you can every day look at it for the date that it is and get some guidance for that day. And so that's the only book that I've ever written like that, because then my books came through as channelings. And so this is what it looked like. I would wake up at 2:00 in the morning with this book writing itself in my head. And it's, it's like I'm thinking it through. And, you've probably been in a creative process like that, where you do it in your head and you think, I've just got to get up and I've got to write it down instead of trying to do it within my head. And so I'd get up in the middle of the night and I would just type it. And generally it'd be like by the evening time that day that it'd be finished. So I'd be there in my PJs, typing it all in until it was done. And so every other book that I've written has been like that. It's been a middle of the night job, and I do not stop typing until it's all out of me. And then luckily I've got a good proofreader and editor, sending it off to him, and he looks through it all. So it has been a while since I've written a book, but they've all come through like that. And nothing recently.
Yeah. What was the last?
Although,
what was the last book you wrote?
The last book was Having It All. And that was at a particular point in my journey where I was living on a yacht and running my business from a catamaran, which was an amazing lifestyle. I loved that. Very free, very connected to nature. Knowing the tides and the weather, because we were sailing a lot of the time. And very beautiful way to live, very connected way to live. Saw some amazing things.
Wow. Tell us
shoals of fish. Shoals of fish, like just I wouldn't even be able to guess the size of these shoals. Sounding like thunder. And then, you look toward the horizon and there'd just be this huge patch of fish, huge. There would have been millions of fish all jumping in unison, and it sounds like galloping horses. all at the same time. It just incredible sights like that. And there was one time sometimes the nights could be very noisy because stingrays, I think it's stingrays, will use the side of boats to slap fish against. They probably do it with rocks as well, but of course when you're on a boat you hear them doing this, and so they use it to stun their prey. And so sometimes some nights can be really noisy with these, I think it's rays, slapping the side of the boat. And there was one particularly noisy night when we got up in the morning. It was incredible what we saw on deck. All of these squid had jumped out of the ocean and onto the deck and then inked themselves. Wow. And so there was probably about 50 squid on our deck, and then all of this messy ink there. And so, yeah, we feasted on squid that day and the next day and the next day too. We're having barbecue squid for breakfast and lunch and dinner. Yeah, it was incredible. So there must have been so many squid. You know, the rays must have got some of them, but the rest of them jumped on deck, and then we had the cleanup job of all of the ink as well, which it's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy to clean up squid ink from the deck of a boat. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, so many different experiences like that, and it kind of got hard to live back on land again, which is why I've always lived on islands ever since, because it's got that same connection with nature. Right. To me, you know, being on a small island. Yeah. Wow. That was a wonderful. So yeah, that book, Having It All, is about, you know, I can't even remember what's in it now, but it was about that. It was about living life, having all these different experiences, any experience that you want, you know. It was quite interesting for my journey, my healing journey in particular, because my partner at the time, very much a narcissist. And I kind of laugh when I'm helping other people with their issues, or, you know, they perhaps realize that they're in a relationship with a narcissist, or the aftermath of narcissistic relationships is very difficult, you know, to piece yourself back together afterward. And I count myself lucky that I had my lesson of relationship with a narcissist on this beautiful yacht, and, you know, all of these incredible experiences that I had on that. So I got it kind of easy in a way. Very nice situation to have a hard kind of a lesson. Yeah. So in a way, to me, even though the book wasn't about that, because I was living on the yacht at the time, it was about, you know, having it your way. Yes, we're going to learn. Of course, we're going to learn when we're in this life. You don't get out of that. You know, it's as much as we'd love to believe that law of attraction, and we can just have it easy and exactly what we want and none of the lessons. We can't do that. We are here to learn, but we can do it in style, and we can do it and have a lot of, you know, positive experiences that we want as well. And part of that is, to me, is being conscious about that, of what we'd like to learn next, not being lazy and just letting the world throw at us, you know, the challenges and the lessons that we want. But we can pick that. So, okay, I'd like to work on my emotional transparency, or I'd like to work on having healthy relationships, being ready for a healthy relationship within myself. If we can know ourselves enough to realize where our shortcomings are, or not even shortcomings, it can be like we're talking now, you know, about how would we like to live with all of these structures falling away. We can set an intention like that. This is the kind of thing I'd like to work on next, you know, and we can do that. We can set our own challenges up instead of having random ones thrown our way.
You were talking about doing sessions with people, and kind of give me an idea of what a typical session would be like. What would you begin with and then maybe end with? Take us through.
Okay. So I do various things. I do psychic readings. I do them solely online, which is a lie, because I did one in person the other day, but mostly online, because doing it online, somebody requests a reading from me. I've just got a name. I don't know them. I can't make any guesses about them by looking at them. So my ego isn't involved in it. And so it's very pure channeled kind of stuff. I just type in the information that their higher self or the guides think that they need to know, and then send it to them. And so that's the psychic readings that I do. And so very much based on the energies that I'm picking up or what I'm being told. Sometimes told isn't the right word. I don't hear it. Mm-hmm. It's more like the thoughts being put in my mind. And sometimes it's feelings that I get and I relay when I remembered feeling that way myself, the aspects about that. The guys will just give it to me in any way that they can. If they want me to explain something, they know me completely. Mm-hmm. And they know, oh, she will completely get what we are trying to tell her if we give her this emotion, because she'll correspond it to something that happened to her, or we need to tell her this thing, you know. So they know how to work around me. And I think every psychic or tarot reader works in that same way. So we're all very unique. You can't really compare us to each other, and our guides will work through us to get messages through. So that's my psychic readings. Energy healings that I do online, it's a similar kind of process, but it's different. And so when I'm going into an energy healing, they're all very different. It's like I go into a meditative state and I feel like that the customer's in front of me, generally a mini version of them lying down about this big. And so I can feel the energy. Sometimes I'll use my hands, sometimes not, to feel those energies. So very different every time. Sometimes in the meditation, it's like I'm watching a video inside of my mind, like a dream of guides or angels or whatever beings doing something to them. You know, that could be anything from some kind of a ritual, or sometimes they'll do things with crystals. Yeah, it could be anything. Sometimes they get me to do something within it as well. And I will take a break every now and then and type all of the information into a PDF and then get back into the meditation. So yeah, it can be all kinds of things. It's very different every single time. And so again, I'm sending that off to the customer once it's done. People have said to me that they can tell when I'm doing it. Some people can tell when I'm doing it. I do tend to do it when my customer is asleep. I think that is when they're most open. And of course, I don't want to, the guides would never do it anyway, but I don't want to, you know, cause problems. You know, you're trying to like drive down the road or something, and suddenly you're in this dazed state. The guides would never do that anyway, you know, but yeah, I do try and do it when people are asleep. And then I've got my breakthrough coaching sessions as well. And so that's very much like you and I on a video call. Really, that's more like the psychological aspect of it as well. It's really in-depth. I'll use all of my skills in that and guiding someone through a process. So after they've told me what it is that they want to get to the bottom of, generally I'm using my psychic skills then to give them a deeper understanding of why they're going through or why they went through that. If anyone else is involved, what their part in it was. So very often those sessions are about things that happen in childhood and perhaps then into adulthood involving a parent or someone in the family, or relationships as well, it can be. And I've found that it's very easy for people to let that go once they know what was going on for the parent at the time. And so what I've seen over and over again is parents trying to save their children from what they experienced, but getting it oh so wrong and having their children experience exactly the same thing because they're kind of overcompensating in a way that they think will completely stop the child from having that experience. And I think that's happened over and over again. I think we all do that. I can look back and see myself doing that. You know, I didn't want my kids to have anything like the childhood that I had, and they didn't, but I can see that my overcompensation kind of gave them very similar experience, not very similar experiences, but it was a similar kind of theme. It's like there's no getting away from it because I hadn't healed myself before I had the kids. And I think this, to me, as a healer, this is one of the most frustrating things to me, that people can have children before they know themselves, and then they look after those children, and these issues just, go forward and forward and forward in through the generations. But yeah, in my sessions, it tends to be things like that. Just really getting down to the basics of everyone's intentions. And, when someone hears and they truly get it, oh, they were trying to save me from that, but they're just clueless, because we all are when we're that young, as how to go about it. They were actually instilling that same thing within me. So, the child thing, or the now adult thinks, that the parent didn't love them, and so that they were doing that, and they took that from it, that there was something wrong with them. But really, the parent was trying to save them from something that they'd been through. And sometimes the parent tries to save them from going through what their partner was going or had been through. Mm-hmm. And so perhaps the father could see that the daughter was very like the mother and knew the mother so well, and what had hurt the mother in the way that she was, so maybe she was very sensitive, right? The mother was very sensitive, and the father could see that the mother was very sensitive and how that seemed to be hurting her. And so when the daughter comes along and is like, oh no, she's really sensitive too, I better try and train that out of her to save her from this, depression or whatever the mother went through. Mm-hmm. And then, and so he tries to toughen up the daughter, and of course the daughter will take that as not being seen and not being heard and not being accepted and not being loved for who she is, and being seen as a problem, Right. And once I tell then the daughter, no, this is what it was about. Mm-hmm. And she'll be like, of course, my mom was having a really hard time, and my dad loved my mom, and he didn't want me to have a hard time. And so he was trying to protect me from all of that. And so a lot of my sessions can be about that kind of thing, but it's not always. And sometimes it's us working through all kinds of stuff. But my guys will get to the root of it, and that's why I call it breakthrough coaching sessions, because they're very powerful. It can sort out a problem that you've had your whole life, because you haven't understood what was really going on in it. So yeah, I love doing those.
Do you ever work in the dream state where you're asleep and you're dreaming, doing a healing for someone?
Yeah, that's exhausting. I don't like waking up from nights like that. I've been working all night. I tend not to, when I first started using my gifts professionally, I had very few boundaries. In other words, I was trying to help everybody, and I felt it was my duty to help everybody. Right. Savior complex kind of thing. I had few boundaries with what I was hearing, what I had access to. I was switched on all the time, and I was open all the time. So I'd be getting messages for everybody, Mm-hmm. Couldn't even, get public transport without like hundreds, of messages. It was exhausting. And of course, I realized after a while, this isn't helping anybody, and it's certainly not helping me. Mm-hmm. Especially like I traveling around a lot to countries where I didn't even speak the language, and to be kept awake all night because spirits were, shouting German at me, doesn't help anybody. So, yeah, I had a lot of visuals as well, which I've got PTSD from my abuse, and it wasn't good for that. So I don't want to see dead people, right? And so I sat down in meditation and I talked to my guides. Look, I will use this gift to help people, but I just want to help people like this and this and this, and I want it switched off the rest of the time so I can live my life. So when I want to work, it switches on, and when I've stopped working, it switches off. And I went through that process of learning only to help people when they ask for help, because otherwise it's a judgment of that person. And just all of those boundaries around it. And now they're really strong. So it happens very rarely that I get that nighttime work kind of stuff going on. I did have one recently, though, last week. I had a night like that where I was doing a lot in the night. It just seems to correlate with a stress state for me, though, personally. If I'm in a stress state, then I'll have one of those nights where I'm working through something in the night. Yeah.
Do you do in-person healing? Do you do Reiki or something like that?
You know what? My guides told me not to learn anything from anybody. Now, they told me not to learn stuff from other channels. They wanted me to just learn from them. And so I have worked with other Reiki masters before in group healing sessions. And they're like, oh, yeah, what you're doing is Reiki. And it's like, well, I don't know. It's just what I've been told to do, what my guides tell me to do. Yeah, that's been an interesting thing that my guides, they just didn't want me to learn other people's way of doing it. They wanted me this pure channel, just like learn from us, just do what we tell you to do. It's like, okay. So no official certificates apart from my neurotherapy. I've got no official certificates or anything like that of what it is that I do. Just completely working with my guides. And that's what it feels like to me too, is that I work for the universe and work for my guides. You know, I'm very much between worlds. I don't feel like I'll ever stop working while I'm alive. And to me, the difficulty has been trying to pair it with the earth, with it being a business. Because sometimes I'll just keep on doing what I do, and it's like, oh, I forgot, I need to make money from this because I've got bills too. And then I have to start, putting my business brain on and like, okay, well, how can I get this to sustain me as well? Yeah. But, I've been doing it for 25 years now, and I haven't needed to do anything else. So I'm doing okay.
Good. But do you do any in-person sessions other than sending out PDFs and such? There, maybe on the island, if a tourist asks for something.
Yeah, sometimes I do. It's rare that it happens, but yeah, sometimes a tourist will ask me, and I will do that. It depends. It depends on their energy. Generally, I will ask. You see, I've got my sacred space here. And even though I'll be doing my online stuff, it's very different. I used to have a shop in Byron Bay where I would do it. And I do massage and I do energy healings and I do readings. And I found it difficult to keep my energy high. I found it difficult to have boundaries with people, especially when I'm talking about deep emotional stuff with them, things that they've been through. People will want to carry on talking about it afterwards, So we've had this session and then they just want to pour everything out, I think it's natural, it's like you would do with your friends, well, maybe not men, but women would do this with their friends and we'd, talk about it afterward. And so I found it very difficult to shut the person off. And it's like, no, this is the end of the session. I've got someone else coming in. So I found it very draining doing face-to-face work. And not just that, it wouldn't be so pure either, because sometimes I'd be told something by my guides and I'd look at the person and I'd be like, that can't be true. They're too young. No, and I would question it like that. And that's my ego getting involved. Right. I don't get that online. I don't get that online at all. So, it just works so much better for me doing the online stuff that sometimes when tourists ask me about it, I'll say yes. If I don't want to do it, I'll say yes, and then it just won't happen. And I'll just be based on their energy. Sometimes people are just not on the level yet to hear what I'd have to say or the depth of what I'll be saying. If someone just wants to do it for fun, like I was saying, there's a place for that and there's a place for the showmanship part of it, but that's not me. That's not what I'll be doing with people. So it's rare that it happens, but sometimes I do face-to-face stuff.
You are also a tarot reader. Do you have your cards handy? Can you do a quick reading for us?
Yeah, sure. So, like I was saying, I've got strong boundaries with my work. And so me picking up the cards is kind of me saying, okay, it's time to switch on now. And when I do that, I can connect straight away. So when I was doing my training, my neurotherapy training, it's EEG via biofeedback. And so putting sensors on the head and listening to the EEG. So I'd have, computer screen up there and watching the EEG. Well, when I was learning about it, of course, we were doing it on each other. And when I first had the electrodes put on my head, the trainers were like, whoa, look at your brain waves. I've got a very unusual brain. So it's like I'm meditating all the time. I'm in alpha waves even when my eyes are open. So I don't need to meditate before I do my work. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one's for you, Jay.
Okay.
Two of Swords. Two of Swords is about you thinking that you don't know what to do. So Two of Swords is a decision needs to be made. And I always call BS on this card, right? Because I know that people know what they want to do, really, but sometimes don't want to admit what it is that they want to do, or they think there's a right and a wrong choice to make. And the choice that they want to make, they're thinking that might be the wrong choice. So I'm not confident enough in that choice to actually admit that I do know. So this is the card of not knowing what to do. You got a choice and you don't know what to do, but you really do. You just don't trust yourself in that choice. The Hanged Man comes up. This is the one that fell on the floor. The Hanged Man, there upside down. It's about looking at a situation from a completely different perspective. Now, to me, this, and I think it's a message for everybody that's listening, and not just you, Jay. And it's a personal thing that I had going on as well recently. The way that we've been living is all changing now. So we're very much in a hanged man perspective where everything's shifted. Everything is shifting. If you are trying to manifest something or making choices based on the old structures, it probably won't manifest. But because the guys will be saying, but that's only valid if things stay the same, and things aren't staying the same. So this is saying you've got to do what I was saying before. It's so important for everyone to let the structures go out of the mind, first of all. Not how can the structures fall away and what the hell will the world look like after that? How is it going to work? Not that, but just presuming that all those structures aren't there anymore. And then what do I want from that point, from that place? So confusion around choices now could be because things aren't manifesting. And I had this very thing myself, something that I wanted, and I was getting so many signs that it was manifesting, and then it didn't manifest last minute. And my guides told me, well, it was just old paradigm stuff. You fully would have manifested that if the world wasn't changing, but the world is changing. So some things that we want right now are very much in the old structures. Like I said at the start, if I ask you what your goals are, you're going to think within the box at the moment. So this is about, you've got to look from a completely different perspective. Is what you are choosing, is the choice and the question even based on what's coming or what's been? Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of confirmation through my body now about this. It's a confusing time right now because what has worked isn't going to work anymore. What we are wishing for that is within old structures, and that could be anything. That could be some kind of success. But the guides will be going, he doesn't really want that because it's not even going to be valid. It's not even a success in the new structure. Or it could be something like relationships as well. Like we see a lot of people single right now. And choosing to be single, most of us choosing to be single, even the ones that pretending that they're not choosing it, they are choosing it. Because when we think about being in a relationship, people might think marriage. It's like, well, what is marriage? Would we really want that? Like marriage, got to turn it upside down. Marriage was in a patriarchy. It's a patriarchal thing, and it's about ownership. And it's about money. It's like, well, relationships won't be about that. And so I think we're going to be headed into a completely different, a new paradigm about relationships, and we'll figure that out. And I think that's why a lot of us are single at the moment. So those people now, you watchers and you and me, are trying to manifest stuff. It's not going to happen. And it will be a very confusing time as well, not clear of what the right choices are, or you might feel like you keep on making the wrong choices because you can't manifest what it is that you want.
Wow.
But I always put it like this. When you're in an airport, it's not the time to get into a relationship.
Yeah.
When you're in an airport and you're about to get on a flight somewhere else, you don't get into a relationship then, because you are clearly going off in opposite directions. And that's true in any kind of relationship at any time. If we're going to keep on growing, you've got to be with someone that's got a growth mindset. But even then, you're likely to grow in different directions too, because we're also very unique. And that's always been true. But now this hanged man is saying, it's not even about us now, you and me changing in our growth path. This is more fundamental. This is like everything's changing. The whole basis of who we think that we are is changing now. The whole world that we're living in is changing. So, yeah, of course, it is going to be a confusing time.
That's amazing.
In other words, love ourselves more.
It's interesting that that reading came up because over the next couple of months, there are a lot of things in my life that are changing, and it was nice to get that validation and that direction to not worry about it, because what's on the other side will probably not be anything like what I think it might be.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thank you for that. That was precious. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I think that was for everybody. I think everyone will have taken, anyone that's listening to this or watching this will have taken that message. And that's always the way. And some cynics of psychic work will say, but well, that's so vague and it applies to everyone. It's like, well, yeah, it should do. It should do if it's the truth. Truth and wisdom applies to everyone. Of course it does. And we can all apply it in our lives when it's truth. When it's not truth, it's going to be individual. Yeah. So the prediction kind of reading. So that's not what I do. I do it about the energy, and it's about bringing wisdom through. So yeah, it should apply to everybody. There should be very few people that doesn't apply to right now.
Claire Louise Hay. Her website is behealing.com, and you can find her books there. You can find. Do you do social media at all?
I do. Yeah, I'm Be Healing everywhere apart from Instagram. I didn't join that fast enough to get the Be Healing handle, and I'm Claire Louise Hay on Instagram.
Okay.
So Be Healing on Facebook, Be Healing on Twitter, X, Be Healing. Where else? YouTube. Yeah, YouTube channel is where I do a lot of my stuff. I'm doing the daily Today's Tarot show there, and a weekly meditation. In fact, I'm about to record this weekend's meditation on there too. So I'm doing a meditation for the collective every single week on my YouTube channel for these changes, because the energy is really heavy at the moment. And so I think it's a really important time to do a lot of meditation. And so just trying to put out there anything, everything that will help people get through this and tune into these changes that we're going through. But yeah, if anyone wants a session with me, on my website, behealing.com, behealing.com. There's a special code J10, J10. You can get 10% off your whole order. There's programs on there. I'm actually creating new programs at the moment as well, which is a sacred self-healing collection, which is 1 day home retreat programs. And so it's going to be a collection. So I'm doing a general one at the moment, self-healing, but then there'll be for creativity, and it'll be for, perhaps healing depression or something like that. But just taking a day out of your life, and then you'll kind of spend it with me, listening to meditations and the program and teachings, and getting you to journal and go for a walk with me as well, and that kind of thing. So one sacred day at a time. So I'm really looking forward to pouring my creativity into that. But yeah, anything on my website, 10% off if you use that J10 coupon code.
Oh, that is so nice. That's nice. Okay, behealing.com. Claire Louise Hay is my guest. Claire, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and meeting you. And this has just been, well, the word that comes to mind is precious. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me. So good to talk to you and meet you as well, and keep up the good work, Jay.
Thank you. We will see you next time on The J. Michael Show.
Goodbye.